Hi, I'm Brett. Here's my heart about the film Justice League. So in the next few minutes, I want to talk about the mystery of threes. I want to talk about a change engine, and I want to talk about the central theme of all of it. If you don't know me, my name is Brett Culp. You might have seen my video of Batman vs. Superman where I talk about our mothers have the same name, and I cried a little bit in that video. You may also have seen one of my documentary films, Legends of the Night, which was about the inspiration of Batman, which was on Netflix for a while and did charity screenings. Or you might know about my brand new film, Look to the Sky, which is about hope and Superman and people who have embodied the spirit of Superman in their life. And that film comes out in 2018. When I walked out of Justice League, I was really disappointed. I saw it on Friday morning at 10:45 a.m. and I was like, I just did not like this movie. And I really wanted to like it. Like, I was so like, man, I really want to like this movie because I liked Batman versus Superman. It touched me in a unique way and I cried and all this stuff. I'm definitely going to like this movie. And then I walked out and I didn't. But I decided to give it another shot. I went on Monday morning and saw it again. And I completely changed my mind. Like, I completely went the other direction on this movie and saw something really, really beautiful in it. And I want to share it with you today. First of all, let me tell you that you can go all over the internet and find reviews of people who will tell you whether they think Justice League or any other movie is a good movie or a bad movie, whether they did it right, whether they did it wrong, whether, this was good cinema or not. I have no interest in talking about that stuff. The only thing I'm really interested in talking about is my emotional experience with it, our emotional experience with these films. That really interests me. That doesn't interest other people as much, and they're interested in talking about whether it was too much like the Avengers or whether it got screwed up by two directors or whether the computer-generated graphics were good enough. I really don't care about any of that stuff. So if you're wondering why I'm not talking about that, it's because I don't care. It's because this is not really a review or a criticism. I'm not interested really in telling you what went right or what went wrong with this movie. I'll let other people do that. There's plenty of people who are good at that. I want to talk about this different thing, which is, again, on an emotional level, how it affected me. And I think it affected me more powerfully, more positively the second time through because I went in without expectation. It's really hard when you expect something from a movie, you start to put the word should on it. It should do this. It should do that. They should have done it this way. They should have done it that way. And that's hard when you love these characters, right? When you, for a lifetime, since you were like 1 year old, you've loved these characters. And so you're like, they need to get this right. Okay, what's right? Well, so I've kind of stopped that. Side note, that's also been helpful in my own life, just my personal life, when I stopped putting that requirement on my relationships, on my career, on my finances, on my family, when I stop saying, this is the way it should be, and instead just accept things for what they are and try to enjoy them and be present with them. I find that I'm a lot happier as a person when I do that. I find that I'm also happier as a moviegoer when I do that. So anyway, that's an interesting aside. First of all, let's talk about the mystery of threes. The mistake that I feel like emotionally I made with this movie was forgetting that this was part of a trilogy of 3 movies. It's a weird sort of trilogy because each one of these movies kind of has a different style, but Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman, and Justice League are really meant to be, in some ways, kind of a 3-part storyline, which is easy to forget because they kind of are different in many, many ways, but they were essentially in their origin at least, created by a single filmmaker, Zack Snyder, who I think was on a mission to do a certain thing. Whether or not he did that well, you can debate in your videos, but I don't really want to debate that. I think I like what he was intending to do, whether he did it effectively or not, that's another discussion. But what I saw when I look at the flow of all this, I realize that at the heart of this whole thing is Superman. Superman is the essence of all of this. And it's awesome to watch Batman and Wonder Woman and Flash and Cyborg and Aquaman. These are great additions to Justice League, and they have their own wonderful value in the film. But to me, the heart of all of this is Superman, and I think that's why it starts with Superman and Man of Steel. To me, when I step back and think about this, it helps me to understand what this is when I stop thinking about Superman as a character, as a person, and I start instead thinking about him as a symbol for hope. This is what they keep bringing up over and over again in these movies. It started in Man of Steel. It went through as a line on some level through Batman vs. Superman, and then you get hit with it right at the beginning of Justice League. Before the name of the movie even comes up, you're looking at this little iPhone video of these little kids interviewing Superman, and Superman is talking about hope, and that his symbol means hope, and that hope and that symbol is like a river. It's like a river, a moving river. And then he is asked, and what is your favorite thing about Earth? What's your favorite thing about all of us? But before he answers, it cuts. This is essentially the central question of these movies, these three movies, is the essence of hope. And using Superman as a lens to talk about hope. I do a lot of documentary films that are about positive, uplifting things. And the word hope gets used all the time. And I often ask people, okay, well then tell me, what is hope? Define hope for me. And typically they can't do it. Like, hope is a hard word to define. For me, hope is synonymous or interchangeable with one other word, and it's a word that's much clearer and much easier to process, and that word is possibility. Possibility. Possibility is about acknowledging what is and the difficulties of this moment, but also seeing what could be. What could be. That's possibility. That's hope. It's a continual, creative imagination that dreams of a positive future for us as individuals and for us as societies, communities, and as a world. Superman is a symbol of that. His earliest name, one of his earliest nicknames, was the Man of Tomorrow, right? This is what he's about, is hope. And yet, we're living in a world right now where it's a little difficult for us to not be cynical. We're a pretty cynical group of people, right? When we look at the internet and look at everything that's going on and the news that hits us every day, it's kind of difficult not to be cynical on some level. And I think because of that, we have a Superman problem. We got a Superman problem. We've had trouble with this character for a long time. Over the past 20 years, we've struggled to find a version of Superman that our collective consciousness will accept, embrace, and get excited about. Why? Because he symbolizes these ideals that we're not so sure that as a society we really believe in anymore. We're not so sure that we really believe that as a human race, we're headed towards something positive. That we all as a whole have bought in to the best for us, to moving forward, to getting better. And we question whether or not that's really who we are anymore. I think there was a time when Superman embodied what it was to be us. And we loved Superman because we were like, yeah, that's us. That's who we are. That's where we're going. That is our future. And then somewhere along the way, we started to question whether that was true of where we were really going. Are we really going there? Are we really getting better? Are we going that way? And when you start to question that about the world, man, it's really difficult to have hope for your own life. It's really difficult to feel possibility in yourself when you feel like you're living in a world where there isn't a lot of hope. How do you move forward in your own positive space, in your own hopeful space, in your heart, in your head, when the world doesn't feel like it's going that way? So when you look through this trilogy of movies again and you start to see, just replace the word Superman with the word hope. And you start to see that the people in those movies are asking the questions that we're all asking about the world and about ourselves. His father in the very first movie asks, wouldn't it be better maybe to just not show this to the world? to not imagine ourselves as more? Wouldn't that be safer? To not dream? It's a question that made a lot of people mad, but it's the question so many of us are asking ourselves about our own lives and about the world. And then you've got a movie where Man of Steel, all about hope. And yet, where does this hope lead? It leads to the destruction of a city. It leads to these moral, ethical questions about murder and death and protection and security. And that's scary. And it leads people to question whether that sort of ideal is even good, and whether that's what we need in the world, and whether there is hope. And so Batman versus Superman is this dropping into darkness and wondering about that. And yet there's this beautiful moment, at least for me, beautiful, where this Martha moment where they realize that their mothers have the same name and that they are more similar than they are alike, and that there's good in them working together and being together. And it sort of creates this spark of possibility of what we could be. And you watch people come together to remember Superman, to remember hope, to remember what it was like to dream. And so then we get into this Justice League movie, and it's all about that. Superman isn't even in it for the first, half of it or whatever. And so it's a group of people struggling to figure out if they can be hopeful, if they can come out of years, for Wonder Woman, decades of isolation, if Batman can be a leader that brings people together again, if Aquaman and Cyborg and Flash can actually be a positive contribution and make the world a better place, and does it even matter, and will they do it, and is it better just to isolate and be by yourself and not really believe in anything? And yet, as Wonder Woman says and defines herself at the very beginning of this movie, that I am a believer. I'm a believer. That's who I am. It's what the world needs all of us to be. And so then you start to watch, whether you liked the plot, didn't like the plot, you start to watch this very messy, brutal, uncomfortable journey to resurrect hope, right? To bring it back into the world. And it's not pretty. It's not easy. It's frustrating. It's full of doubt and questioning and disagreement about the best way to bring that hope back, and whether we should, and whether it's good, and what that would look like. And, then it creates confusion and all these things that happen. And yet, when you do, it becomes this powerful, unstoppable force. It's like Superman is so powerful at the end of this movie. Like so powerful that it's like the rest of the world is just like nothing. His Superman's power compared to Flash's power, it's like nothing. Superman is so powerful, so strong. And then when, in the face of Steppenwolf and this main villain in this movie, he's nothing. He's nothing compared to Superman. That's the power of hope. That is what hope does. Hope is the unstoppable, unquenchable, unbeatable thing that can never be defeated. Which is why it's so important that we keep it. Which is why the darkness sees its opening to come in and take over the world and stamp out the light when hope vanishes. When hope is dead, evil sees its place to come in and take over. And yet, when hope is resurrected, when it comes to life in our own lives and in the world, it is so powerful, so unstoppable, that it becomes the change engine that alters and transforms everything. I love that phrase, change engine, that they use during the film. And they use it a couple of different ways in a couple of different places. But I think hope is change, is the change engine. When you can see positive possibility for yourself and the world, it creates energy in you that gives you the strength to press forward. Without it, you have no energy because you don't believe that anything can be different, so why try? And yet, when you start to realize that it can be different, that hope is driving you to something better, it's this change engine that gives you the strength to press on and do the hard things you need to do. And I liked that so much, and I believe so much that it is the diversity of our talents and skills that makes such a difference. I think it's ironic or interesting, it's interesting to me, that this villain's wasn't just trying to take over the world, that part of what he's doing is taking these 3 boxes, these sources of power that had been spread out among a diverse group of people, and he's trying to take all that power and combine it into one power that he can control, that will then turn everyone from their unique person into these parademons that all look the same, that all are identical to each other. And yet the strength and the hope is not in our sameness, it's in our uniqueness. And that's the beauty, that's the excitement of a Justice League, right? To see all these diverse groups of people come together. And yet, even as you see that beauty shot of all these Justice League members, it then cuts to a shot of this 3. We're back to this 3, this trinity, right? Of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. So diverse, so unique, so different in their backgrounds and origins and ways of seeing the world and their perspectives, and yet when they are able to come together in hope, in that sense of positive possibility, it changes everything. It changes everything. And that for me then on some level emotionally is the realization of the question that Batman versus Superman asks, which is, can we be together? And of Man of Steel is, does hope matter and is hope real? I think the reality of it is that we're on kind of a river right now. And I think there are reasons that you could look at the world and say, man, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. This is ugly. And yet I think hope is a river. And I don't know exactly where it's taking us. But I believe that it's taking us somewhere good. I believe that we are going someplace good together on that river. And at the end of the movie, when it talks in that Lois Lane monologue about us, who we are, looking at the way we see darkness, what's amazing about us? What's the best thing about us? That kid asks Superman at the very beginning of Justice League that he doesn't answer. What is the best thing about us? What's awesome about what we do? It's that we have the capacity to hope. That's what's amazing about us. That we have the ability to look at the darkness and know that it's not forever and that the light is coming. That we have the ability to go through tragedy and difficulty and come out on the other side of that better than we were before. That we have the ability to come together even when it seems like we are so different from each other, and that can never happen. We're awesome because we have the ability, even when everything seems lost, to continue to look to the sky. That's what's great about us. And that's what's great about you. And so if you're listening to all this and you're like, man, I do believe. I am a dreamer and I have hope in me. What do I do though? The world is kind of overwhelming to me. What do I do with all this? I think that maybe the best scene in the movie, for me emotionally, was Flash asking Batman that same question. You guys look ready for battle. I'm not ready for battle. And Batman says, save one. save one. You don't have to be able to see the whole plan. You don't have to be able to figure out how you can save the world by yourself. And you don't even have to do it alone. Today, just save one. Be nice to one person. Help one person. Smile at one person. Do a good deed for one person. Help one person. And I think the beauty of hope is that after you've done it, you'll know what to do next. Because it's in you to know, even if you don't know and it's not clear to you right now. So start with one. And then I think hope will lead you to what's next. Whether you liked this movie or hated this movie, I hope you were able to find some light and some positivity in it. I sure did. It took me 2 viewings, but I got it. And I feel like it helped me be encouraged. And that's what I love about superheroes anyway. There's a level in which you and I are very, very powerful, and yet we wonder what to do with our power. This movie, and superhero movies in general, they ask that question for us. And I hope we'll learn the valuable lessons of that in our own lives. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me, and I'm really excited to share my next movie, Look to the Sky, with you. It actually touches on a lot of the things I've been talking about. Check out my website, risinghero.org, to learn more about that film, and look forward to sharing it with you soon. Thanks for joining me. Have a heroic day.